How do you end things? How do you break up with somebody? That's what we're going to talk about on this episode of Wonderful Life. Hi, I'm Mary Dittman. I'm an award-winning business professor on the collegiate level and the creator of College on Fleek and Wonderful Life. Wonderful Life is my way of explaining how it feels when you've made peace with being single. I know some people really love being single. I've never felt that way. I've always wanted to be married and have a family, but I'm well over 40. I've never been married. I don't have any children. And that's always been a source of sadness for me because part of my definition of a fulfilled life includes being a wife and a mother. But I got to the point where I said, I just need to make peace with singleness because it does not appear to be changing. And that's what Wonderful Life is about. It's about learning to be happy while you're single, not necessarily being happy because you're single. Now, if you've ever been through a breakup, and most of us have, you know the only thing worse than a breakup is a long breakup. Now, I'm not talking in this episode about divorce, okay? I've never been married, so I can't speak to divorce. But I can speak to breaking up with someone that you've been in a short relationship with or even a long relationship. When I was younger, I did live with someone that I was dating. And when we broke up, it was really hard. It was very painful because when you're losing your relationship and then you're going to lose where you live and you're losing your roommate. And I mean, it was just really stressful. Now, today, I would not live with someone unless I was married. That's not a moral judgment. You can do whatever you want to do. The reason I would not is because every piece of research on this subject tells us that men are less likely to marry you if they live with you before marriage. So a lot of times women will live with a man and they'll think like that's the next step towards marriage. And sometimes he'll even say that, well, let's live together and that'll be the next step. No, if your goal is to get married, don't live with a man before marriage. But again, that's not a moral judgment. You can do what you want to. I'm just telling you what my plan is. And even if you haven't been living with somebody, whether you've been together one date or one decade, breaking up can be tough. I ran into a friend of mine recently and her daughter is in college and I asked how the daughter was doing and I said, oh, by the way, is she still seeing so-and-so? And my friend said, well, no, it didn't really work out. And I said, oh gosh, that's a shame. And she said, well, she's been trying to break up with him for the past year. Year? Honey, a breakup should take you like 10 minutes. All right, so I'm going to just give you some information that you need to know up front when you're breaking up with somebody. Number one, the more information you give, the more he's going to think that you're telling him things that you want him to change or fix. Now, in your mind, this is a list of reasons why I'm going to break up with you. In his mind, it's a repair list. If you've ever had a man break up with you, most guys, here's what they'll say. I don't know, I'm not sure. I need some space. Or, I don't know what's going on with me. Like, I just have a lot going on. Or they'll just ghost without an explanation. Well, the reason is they don't want to get into an argument. Number two, men are nice when they're pursuing, and women are nice when they're rejecting. And this is confusing. So when you're nice to a man when you're rejecting him, he thinks you're pursuing. In other words, let's say you go on a date with someone and you don't really like him. You don't want to go out again. And so when he calls or texts and says, let's go out again, and you say, you're really great, but I'm just getting out of something, and so I'm really not ready for a relationship, but, good luck. Here's what he hears. You're a great guy. I just need more time. Keep chasing me. So, a lot of times we're speaking it's like we're on two different channels. So he's nice when he's pursuing. You're being nice, so he thinks things are going well. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a jerk when you break up with somebody, but you have to be clear. A lot of times women think, he deserves to have me say it to his face. Maybe not. So let's look at some different scenarios. You've been on 1 or 2 dates with a guy. Personally, I just take a page from the men and I will frequently ghost or disappear. So if I go out on 1 or maybe even 2 dates with somebody and he sends me a text like, hey, it was really great to meet you, or hey, I had fun, we should do it again sometime, I don't respond. If he calls, I don't answer the phone. Completely ignore. That is the international sign for, I really don't want to talk to you. Not all guys get that. So sometimes it does become necessary to block him if him texting and calling is aggravating to you. But I recommend don't replying back, because as soon as you reply back, you're giving him hope that there's a chance, unless you come back with something very clear. So in that case, in the past, if I felt like I really need to respond here, I will say, I really didn't feel a spark. Good luck on your dating adventure. Or if he catches me on the phone, sometimes I'll say, you know, it was nice to meet you, but I really didn't feel any chemistry and I don't see a spark there, so I don't want to waste your time or mine, but I do wish you the best of luck. And that's it, it's done. You don't want to get into any type of back and forth, because then he's going to think it's a negotiation. So if you say something like, well, we're just not really the same religion, or I'm a Christian and I'm looking for someone who's a Christian. I've had guys come back and tell me, oh, well, I can learn your religion. Like, don't give those kinds of reasons or excuses, because it will turn into a negotiation. And then you're going to feel like you're being a jerk. If you've been on 3 or 4 dates and for any reason you've decided this isn't the guy for you, then I will frequently respond either the next time he texts me or the next time he calls me. My response will be, listen, we've gone out 3 or 4 times, but honestly, I don't feel any chemistry. I just don't feel that spark, so I don't want to go out again. The reason I'll use that is because you can't argue with chemistry. You can't argue with a spark. It's like you just don't feel something. Everybody can relate to that. Everybody can relate to meeting someone and they're a great person and you're like, I just don't feel it. And that's it. Don't respond anymore. When he texts you in a week saying, how are you? Or can we just be friends? You can always say, sure, and then that's it. No more interaction. Because a lot of times men will say, well, we'll just be friends and then I'm going to kind of grow on her, like she'll start to really like me. Don't do it. I'm just telling you. If you say, sure, we can be friends, and then you go do stuff as friends that is like a date, okay? So like you go out to dinner, you go out to lunch, you go to a movie, you hang out and watch Netflix together, nothing's going on, you're just friends, he is going to think you're progressing because you're doing date activities. Now you're going to be saying, well, we're not on a date, we're friends. I'm just telling you, don't do that. It's not fair to him and it's not fair to you. Let's say it's someone you've been dating 3 to 9 months. I prefer a phone call in this case. So the next time he calls me, I'll say, listen, my feelings just aren't where they should be. At this point, I should really be feeling more, and I'm just not. And so my feelings really aren't there, and I really don't want to continue to see you. That's it. Don't go into, you're a great guy, and blah, blah, blah. Don't say those things because they're confusing. You're giving a mixed message. This phone call should take 10 minutes. Now, a guy with self-respect, as soon as you say that to him, is going to be like, oh, okay. Now, he might be shocked. He might be disappointed. But most of the time he's going to say, okay, well, wow, I'm really bummed. Okay, well, thanks. I think you're really great. It was good getting to know you. Bye, take care. And that's it. Let it go. Again, don't get into a negotiation. I've had guys come back with, well, why not? Well, blah, blah, blah. I thought you cared about me. What's going on? You stick to the script. I just don't feel what I'm supposed to feel. I should be feeling much more and I'm not feeling it. And listen, I'm at an age, I've done this enough times that I should be feeling much more and I just don't. Maybe the chemistry just isn't there. Now, I usually would say 10 minutes, and if he's still trying to argue with you, you say, listen, I've been clear with you, I don't feel what I need to feel, and I don't see this going any further. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hang up. Goodbye. And then you got to hang up, and don't pick up the phone. Now, at this point, you might be saying, oh my gosh, that's so harsh. You're being so mean. But the problem is that women want to end a relationship and we want to feel like I don't want him to be upset. I don't want him to be mad at me. Well, if you've ever been broken up with, you are upset. You frequently are mad. Nobody likes to be rejected. Men don't like rejection. So yeah, he's gonna be upset. But the best thing you can do is get away from him and let him have some space. Number one, so he can work through it. And number two, so he can find someone who really likes him. Now, if you've been dating someone for a year or longer, you might feel like an in-person conversation is appropriate. If you're going to do that, I have some suggestions. Always have that face-to-face conversation in a public place where you have driven your own car or you've taken your own transportation to get there. And the reason I say that is if you let him come to your place, he may not leave. And I had a man one time, I was breaking up with him in college, and he sat on my couch and cried. I could not get him to leave. And if you're at his house, you may not be able to leave. And here's the thing. A lot of times you just really never know how someone is going to react. And if he gets very upset, angry, if he goes into any kind of a rage or is violent in any way, you need to be in a public place where you have some protection. I had been dating a guy one time for about 4 months. I knew that the relationship wasn't for me. And we'd had a couple of disagreements on things. And at one point, we were to go away for the weekend. And I was going to meet his daughter. And I said to him, I'm going to just tell you, I really don't think I want to go. I don't think it's appropriate. I'm not sure I want to continue in this relationship, and I don't want to meet your daughter when I'm not clear, because it's not fair to her or to you for me to meet your daughter and then we decide we're not going to see each other anymore. And I don't want to do that to anyone. And of course, then he was like, what do you mean you don't want to see each other? And I said, listen, I'm just trying to process through, blah, blah, blah. And we talked a little bit about what had transpired in our last few discussions. And I said, look, what I really need, and this was like on a Thursday maybe, I said, look, what I really need is just give me the weekend. And I need a few days, just give me some space and let me just think through and process and pray about some things. And I said, I will call you on Monday. Okay, now I do think that's important. If you're asking for space, then I think you should say, listen, I need a week, I need a break, and I'm gonna get in touch with you on such and such. And make good on that. So I said, listen, I just need a few days. How about if I give you a call on Monday and let's talk? Well, that didn't go well, because from there, he started yelling and screaming on the phone and threatening me. And I got off the phone and he just blew my phone up. So this is on a Thursday. So by Saturday, he was saying, I need us to talk right now. I can't stand it. I need us to talk. I said, okay, well then let's talk right now. No, we need to talk in person. Can I come to your house? I said, no, I'll meet you. So I met him at a coffee shop. And we sat down at the coffee shop and I said, look, this isn't working for me. And it's time for us to go our separate ways. Okay, now so far so good. However, I ended up getting into this kind of round and round and round conversation. See, I know what I'm talking about. You don't want to get into these discussions because, well, why? And I was saying, well, you did this. Well, but da-da-da-da. And when this happened, I was unhappy. Well, that's because you, blah, blah, blah. And he was turning things around and blaming me and, I can change this, I can change that. And so I know from experience, don't get into all that. Took me 2 hours. And I finally just said, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm leaving. And I almost literally ran out of the coffee shop. And it was at a mall. And I was running out of the coffee shop down the hallway to go to the ladies' room. He chased me down and stopped me, wouldn't even let me go in the ladies' room. And I'm like, this is not good. So finally, I got away from him. I'm like, well, I need to get home because, clearly I'm not going to go in the ladies' room. He's just going to be waiting for me when I come out. So finally, I got out of there, Well, from there, he started calling my dad and trying to get my dad to lobby on his behalf. Then this guy shows up at my house like a month later, uninvited, unwanted. Well, there's no way I was letting him in my house because, see, I'd already been through this at college where I said, if I let him in here, I might not be able to get rid of him. So I came outside, I locked the door and just pretty much told him, look, you better leave. Well, apparently he called my dad again and was complaining, she wouldn't even let me in her house. No kidding, I wasn't going to let him in the house. I would never have gotten rid of him. That 2-hour breakup, that was a rookie mistake. Now look, you can do what you want to do, okay? But I'm just telling you, if you are clear that you want to end a relationship, then men respond well to very clear communication. Don't beat around the bush. Don't make them read between the lines. Don't be all confusing and say, like, you're really great, I just don't know if I feel anything. Because what they hear is, you're really great, keep pursuing me and convince me that you're the right guy for me. And then you're going to be mad because you're like, but I tried to tell him I didn't want him to call me anymore. Like, no, girl, here's how you do that. You say, listen, this isn't working for me. You need to find somebody else. That's what I'm going to do. And good luck. Goodbye. Now, I said that to a student of mine one time. He asked me, he said, what would you say to a guy that you had gone out with? And I said something almost exactly like that. Listen, I'm not interested. You need to go meet somebody else because that's exactly what I'm going to do. We're not going out again. It's never going to happen. 0. And we were with a female student. She was like, oh my gosh, I would never say that. He looked at me and goes, man, that's awesome. He said, I wish women would have said that to me in the past. He said, there are so many girls that I kept chasing because I thought they wanted me to chase them. And he said, man, if a woman would just look at me and say that, like, I get it. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but you need to be clear. And here's the thing, you're not going to feel good about a breakup. Even if you're the one who wants the breakup, it still feels weird. It doesn't feel good. And it doesn't feel good when you are breaking up with a guy, particularly if maybe you had some fondness for him and he's not a bad guy. You think he's nice, he's just not the guy for you. Yeah, it feels yucky and you're gonna feel yucky and he's gonna feel yucky. And you know what? That's just part of breaking up. So when you approach a breakup of like, I just don't want anyone to feel bad, forget it. That's impossible. What your goal should be is to make the feeling bad part as minimal as possible. It's the old, like, do you rip off the Band-Aid slowly or just one quick rip? One quick rip is much better. You're harming him when you stay in a relationship and you are not crazy about him. The guy that I lived with, I wasn't crazy about him. I wasn't really in love with him. And when we broke up, he married a woman who loves him. She thinks he hung the moon. She thinks he is the greatest thing ever. They're still married today. They have children. And she just adores him. And the truth is, I never felt that way about him. And you know what? He deserves that. He deserves a woman who thinks that he is the best thing that has ever happened in her life, ride or die. And that wasn't me. And he deserves her because she loves him so much and unconditionally. And so I wasn't doing him a favor by continuing that relationship. Now look, Wonderful Life is a dialogue, not a monologue. And we want to know what you think. Do you think you should only break up with people in person? Put your response in the comments and let us know how you feel. You can always connect with us at wonderfullife.com. We post a new blog there every Friday. You might want to join our newsletter list, and we have some cool merchandise there for you. And we'll see you next time right here on Wonderful Life.